Speaking of the Talks channel, tier list, baby. I had this prepared. I had it in the chamber, ready to shoot, cocked and locked. I saw Brand New Day last night. So leading up to Brand New Day, me and my son, he's getting into Spider-Man now. Beautiful stuff, loved it. He wanted to watch all the Spider-Man movies leading up to it. We did. So now that they're all fresh in my brain, I'm going to give you the definitive Rob ranking. No spoilers for Brand New Day. For myself or you, chat, please, you will be banned immediately. First up, Spider-Man 1. I think this movie aged incredibly well. I'm putting it in A tier. This is like, there's not many Spider-Man movies where he feels real. If that, you'll see what I'm saying? You know, like that makes sense. If that makes sense, he feels like Spider-Man feels real in Spider-Man 1. Like he is a real person existing in a real world. And Brand New Day does that very well too. Brand New Day is like the first one in a long time where I think it did that very well. Green Goblin might be the GOAT of live action Spider-Man villains. You know, Willem Dafoe is an absolute legend as Green Goblin, one of the greatest comic book villains ever. That final fight, bro, between Goblin and Spidey is brutal. I was watching it with my son and I was like, God, I was watching this when I was 5? Like, this is a lot. It's intense, bro. It's pretty brutal.
You've spun your last web, Spider-Man.
I think Toby as Pete is just incredible. Very well sold performance by him. And this is going to go for all of the Raimi films. I hate Kirsten Dunst's MJ. I think she's just awful. Not Kirsten Dunst as an actress, but like the way MJ is written in these films, I think is actually one of its weakest points. She's unbearable. Like straight up for the streets, bro. Like in Spider-Man 1, she went through 4 separate dudes. Technically 4 if you consider that she didn't know Pete and Spider-Man were the same person. You know, she kind of sucks. She's kind of the worst, and she only gets worse as the trilogy goes on. Straight up for the streets. Selfish, narcissistic, awful, awful love interest. But besides that, I love Spider-Man 1. I think it's a very well-paced movie. Mostly it has some, like, it kind of jumps around there in the middle. Some very iconic performances. It is a hard bar to top, really, but they did. They topped it in the very next one with the very best Spider-Man movie to ever exist. Spider-Man 2. I think Spider-Man 2 is the GOAT. It's still my number 1 all time. I think it embodies everything that we love so much about Spider-Man in the fact that he is relatable. He's a hero that stumbles and falls and gets lonely and gets sad and depressed and feels just alone. And that's kind of what this movie's all about, you know, feeling alone in the world and him kind of coming into himself. And I love it dearly. Doc Ock is on par with Goblin. I think you could probably make an argument for him being better. I think it's between those two when you're talking about the greatest live action Spider-Man villains. Just some iconic fight, that fight on the Empire State Building between Spidey and Doc Ock. The train scene. I think the train scene, stopping the train, might be the greatest Spidey moment in live action ever. It is, again, an embodiment of the character. It's better. It's just crazy. I saw this on Twitter the other day. Somebody said that it's crazy. The best live action Spidey moment or action sequence wasn't a fight. It wasn't throwing punches. It wasn't fighting a villain. It was stopping that train. I think that's the greatest Spidey moment in live action. This movie's very special to me. So like on my rewatch, I thought maybe nostalgia might carry it a little bit just because it was my favorite growing up. But no, man, just even now, I think it holds up so incredibly well. It's so well paced. It has great action. The romance between him and MJ is probably better than it is in the other two. It's still pretty toxic. She just leaves old dude at the altar at the end and it's like smiling about it. I'm like, you are an evil person. What do you... She's the worst, man. MJ sucks. No, I love this movie though. I think it's the greatest. Spider-Man 3 is not a good movie. It's not a good movie, and let me tell you, the revisionist history with Spider-Man 3 is unreal. I think this movie might have more revisionism attached to it than any other movie in comic book film history. This is awful. There's very few redeemable qualities about it. Not that there's none. I just feel people saw this growing up and loved it because it's cool. It has the black suit. Because of that, they let it carry their opinion of the movie into their adulthood. And it makes no sense. It is a convoluted, congested nightmare of a film. Genuinely. It is very bad. It's full of memes and Bully Maguire and some aura shots with the black suit. It is a nightmare. It is every bit as poorly written and congested as TASM 2. Every single bit. It is not good. It's not good. If you watch it immediately after Spider-Man 2, it is such a just drastic drop in quality all around. Even the CGI moments, the VFX is terrible. It's bad from the jump. There's glimmers of hope or glimmers of what could be a really good movie in there. Like, yeah, some of the black suit moments are cool. I think the fight between him and Sandman in the subway was really, really good. The Sandman, the movie's at its best when it's talking in the Sandman moments. There was potential there for a really like tragic, emotional story with Sandman as the main antagonist. But you know, Sony's gonna Sony, especially back then, and they wanted Venom. And that ruined the whole movie. I think the Venom stuff is when the movie's at its worst. Like, yeah, we got some aura shots of the black suit. It's cool. Like the reveal of the black suit, the shot of him on top of the building, like in the rain. Yeah, dude, it's aura. It's cool. That doesn't make it a good movie. It's not good. People are lying to themselves about this movie. I'm going to be real with you. I think it's the worst live action Spider-Man film. Would I rather watch it than a few of these others, couple of these others down here? Yeah, probably. I would get a more enjoyable experience. I'll definitely laugh more because it's so bad it's funny. I do think it's the worst written Spider-Man film. I think it has the least amount of redeemable qualities in comparison to every other film, every other live action Spidey film. How can I not like Spider-Man 3? Why did I not like Spider-Man 3? If I'm Tobey Maguire, I'm walking. Contractor, and I'll breach it. You cannot sit here, like, it is so jarring to watch Spider-Man 2 and then watch Spider-Man 3, in the fact that there were professional writers in a writer's room that wrote this up and then gave it to Tobey Maguire, said, hey man, you're gonna now dig on this. No, man, Spider-Man 3 is great. Shut up. You're so delusional. TASM 1. Both Amazing Spider-Man films were a little interesting to me on rewatch because I've always been a Andrew Garfield enthusiast. I love Andrew Garfield. I think he is a spectacular, amazing, dare I, Spider-Man. But TASM 1, I always held pretty highly regarded. I actually, before rewatch, I thought TASM 1 was as good, if not better than Spider-Man 1, but it's not. It's actually slightly worse for me on rewatch. None of the Andrew Garfield stuff is worse for me. I think he is amazing. Again, literally. I just think there's a lot about this movie that doesn't really do it for me. Mainly, I think Kurt Connors is just wildly uninteresting. I think his whole, like, his motives all around, even compared to even like Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3, it's really weak. It's really weird. It's like we're just gonna turn the whole city into lizards, and like it's very silly. I guess it's a comic book movie, so like it really leaned into the comic bookiness of it. I just feel like they could have tried a little harder creating a more interesting motive. I think just sticking with, you know, he wanted to grow his arm back and he turned into a giant lizard and now he's terrorizing the city. I think that could have been enough. I think I could have done without he wants to turn everybody into lizards. Like, it just lost me a little bit there. I think the Captain Stacy plotline in these two movies really, I can't explain it, but it rubs me the wrong way a little bit. It feels very un-Spider-Man-ish, if excuse my poor phrasing, but I don't know if that makes sense or not. I like Andrew and or Peter and Gwen's relationship. Like, I think they have a lot of chemistry, way more chemistry than Toby and Kirsten Dunst ever had. Their whole relationship's sweet and all, but it's the fact that, like, he promised this girl's father on his deathbed he was going to stay away from her, and then he just, like, and then it's just like at the end, she's like, don't make promises you can't keep, Peter. He said, but those are the best ones. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? What is wrong with you? You freaking, that is a wild thing to say. And she's smiling, like, her dead father, his dying wish as he helped you save the city was for you to stay away from his daughter. And now you're like making light of it. It just felt very not Spider-Man. So yeah, this movie, I think it has a lot of great moments. It does. The swinging, just like TASM 2, incredible action and swinging scenes. The VFX was the best in these two movies, for sure. Even better. I think even better than Brand New Day. The CGI and VFX was really well done in both of these movies. But yeah, writing wise, it's struggled in Amazing Spider-Man 1, but it struggled even worse than TASM 2, which is going in D tier, and I'm about to piss so many of you off. I think it's better than Spider-Man 3. I really, really do. I think it's better than Spider-Man 3. And I'm about to tell you why. So this is a convoluted, congested nightmare as well. It's not good by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it's better than Spider-Man 3 because I just think this movie understands the character of Spider-Man a little more than Spider-Man 3. There's some moments in TASM 2, which is crazy because it's definitely one of the worst movies of this entire series. Or not series, but character, rather. There's just moments in TASM 2 that are just really, really good Spidey moments. And it pushes it above Spider-Man 3 slightly for me. Like, just little things for example, at the beginning when that little kid's getting bullied in the alleyway and Spidey drops in, scares the bullies away, and then helps him put his little school project back together. And then he's hyping him up like, dude, you made this? That's so cool. And then he walks him home after that.
You made this? No way.
That is like, that's Spider-Man. Even the ending scene with Rhino. I know Rhino was awful. Anything to do with villains in these two movies is bad. There's not a single redeemable quality for really any of the villains here. One thing Mark Webb really did get, that was the director, right? Mark Webb, there was a lot about the character of Spider-Man that he understood. His kindness and him instilling hope into people in a lot, like, better in a lot of ways than Raimi did, I think. There was just, in the swinging scenes in TASM 2 was, even Brand New Day was close, I think, in that department with some of its swinging stuff. But even like the opener in Amazing Spider-Man 2, or the kind of opener, not technically the opener, but when it reveals, like, it goes from his logo into the back of his suit and then he's flying through the air. Just some really good action all around through TASM 2. But, you know, at the end of the day, everything to do with the writing in regards to the villain. Jamie Foxx's Electro is one of the worst comic book villains ever. Harry's Goblin is just one of the most, how do I even find the word? It's bad. It's so bad. And that's what makes it. I honestly feel if you would have wrote Harry out entirely, I could have dealt with Electro. I think if Harry's not in this movie, it's closer to C or B. It's closer to TASM 1. But Harry is just so bad in this movie. I think it's a poor casting. I think it's written poorly. I don't know what they were cooking with in regards to anything to do with villains. I do think the Gwen and Peter stuff was really good. It was pretty solid. Even taking, again, the Captain Stacy stuff really still rubs me the wrong way. But again, they just have such good chemistry, and it was her death. It did hit. It hit for me anyway. I remember being in the theaters watching this when it came out, like jaw on the floor, like, what? You can't do that. That's a superhero movie. It doesn't happen. So it was a ballsy thing to do, and I respect it. The movie opening with her graduation speech and Peter missing it because he's being Spider-Man, her dying because he's Spider-Man, and then it ending with her graduation speech, him reading it for the first, or listening to it for the first time, which then catapults him back into being Spider-Man. I think that's really, really good. That's a really, really, I think that anything to do with Gwen in this movie, aside from, you know, the precursor of her father not wanting him to be with her and him breaking that promise, I think all of that was great. It's everything else. Everything else, convoluted, congested nightmare again. Not a good movie, but some really high points for me. Puts it above Spider-Man 3. And I would dare say I would rather watch it than a couple of these others down here. But I don't think it's better than any of these down here. Into the Spider-Verse, this is S tier. No surprise there. I do think Spider-Verse, this is crazy to start off with a movie that I'm putting in S tier. I know it's crazy. I do think both Spider-Verse films are, you got to stick with me now. Don't freaking fall over. Hold your horses. I have it in S tier. I think it's slightly overrated. It's not the greatest Spider-Man film. There's people, like, I see so much, and again, it deserves praise because these are, like, as far as animation goes, this is just a masterpiece. It is it's become a pillar of animation. These are some of the greatest comic book movies ever made. I just feel like putting it in Infinity War talks, putting it in like Winter Soldier talks, putting it in Dark Knight talks, or it's a little much for me. They're very good, very good. Love Miles. I don't think we're talking a Mount Rushmore comic book film here. It's up there. It was some of the greatest, but we gotta pump the brakes a little bit on Spider-Verse. I think. I think they're great. I definitely like the first one more than Across. I like both of them. I like Across too, but no, Into the Spider-Verse. It is such a great passing of the torch type movie. I love everything. I really like everything about it. Again, I know I said it was a little overrated, but I do love it. I love the opener, the death of Peter transitioning right into Miles finding his own path as Spidey and kind of taking up the mantle and filling that void. Miles his characterization is really perfect here. A lot of humor here, especially I love the portrayal of his father. The Prowler stuff is very tragic, very well done. Yeah, I love Miles. I'm ready to see him in the MCU. Not quite yet. I want to see Tom kind of get into his 30s, preferably, and him kind of have a long tenure as Spidey before we bring Miles in. Homecoming. This is where I'm going to start making some of you mad, I think. I can't put it in C tier. I don't think it'd be very disingenuous. I'll put it in B. I don't like it as much as Amazing Spider-Man 1. I'm not a John Watts enthusiast by any stretch of the imagination. I think I just don't think he really understands the character that much. And I've said this to a few people before. When I watch Spider-Man Homecoming or Far From Home, I feel like I'm just watching an MCU movie. It just feels like I'm watching another MCU, and it shouldn't be that way because it's Spider-Man. Spidey's different. There should be a certain, when you went to the theater to see Spider-Man 2 with Tobey, or even The Amazing Spider-Man 1, there was a certain vibe that you got, like, oh my God, I'm watching Spider-Man right now. This is Spider-Man. He is this struggling teenager or young adult I relate to so much, and he's broke and alone and like he's just trying to do his best. And I get that this was different. He's a lot younger than he's ever been, so he's really trying to find his way to being a superhero. But I think what really bugs me most about Homecoming, and Far From Home especially, is the obsession with tying every plot point to Tony Stark. Like when I'm watching these, it's like, am I watching a Spider-Man film or am I watching a Iron Man movie? I don't know, because it's everything that goes on, everything that happens, even when you get into the emotional stuff and the impactful parts of the plot, it's still Tony. Like Far From Home, we're going to get into that in a second. It's like at the end of the movie, you're getting into that final act and you're transitioning into the emotional character development. And it's like, I can't be the next Tony Stark. And then that transitions into, oh, well, don't have to be Tony Stark. I'm Spider-Man. You could have left the Tony stuff out, bro. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm not an Iron Man hater or anything, but it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, both of these movies, where the villains all tie back to the Avengers. They all tie back to Tony in some way. And it's so afraid to be they feel so scared to be Spider-Man films. It feels like John Watts wanted to make a movie that tied into the grander cinematic universe rather than make a good Spider-Man story. And I don't care for it that much. I do think it has great moments. I think Michael Keaton's Vulture is a very good villain. Even though his motives were really driven initially, he was kind of kickstarted by the Avengers. Not crazy about that. Homecoming. It's fine. It's just a fine. I do think it has good moments. The final act is good. When you get past the Tony stuff and he's under the rubble and it's, come on, Spider-Man, come on, Spider-Man. That's the first time in that movie where I go, okay, that's Spider-Man. I'm watching a Spider-Man movie. I think all that was good. This movie, it's so obsessed with being different, I think. Again, being a part of the MCU rather than being a Spidey film, that the outright refusal to even say the name Uncle Ben is really weird. There's things that they refuse to do in this movie that I think every Spider-Man movie needs, Uncle Ben being one of them, just for the sake of, oh, well, we don't want to do that again. I just don't think a lot of it works. And it's so just Tony, which is another reason I'm going to put Far From Home in C, but I'm going to be real with you. I think I would the only reason it's not going right there, it is probably my least favorite personal favorite Spider-Man film. But I'm going to put it here because I think it's a little delusional to suggest that it's a worse written film than either of these two, because it's not. It's a finely written film, and I do think it has some really good moments as well. Like the Mysterio illusion part, that scratched an itch for me. I'm not going to lie. That scratched a big itch. It was something that was the first time out of these two movies, the Mysterio illusion part, where I was really like, oh shit, that's really good Spidey right there. I remember being in the theater when this came out and audibly scoffing whenever the big reveal happens. And Jake Gyllenhaal, it comes back to him being an employee of Tony Stark. Is this a Spidey film or is it a Iron Man movie? He's dead and we still can't get over this, man. I get it. Iron Man made Spidey who he is in the MCU. I understand you have to acknowledge that. And you can even still incorporate his death and the impact of his death on Spider-Man into the plot. But the outright obsession with making everything about Tony Stark in these first two movies, I couldn't get past it. And I just, the Clash trip into Italy, into Europe, and he's not even in New York, it just... It's the least feeling Spider-Man film of all Spider-Man films to me, Far From Home. Even the final act of him, the final act is all about him finally coming into his own and getting out of Tony's shadow and becoming Spider-Man. But he's still doing it aboard one of Tony Stark's ships using Tony Stark's tech, It's still Tony. And there's also some really just not great humor in this movie as well. It's the least funniest of all the Spider-Man films, I think. There weren't many moments at all throughout the entire thing where I felt like, oh, that's really funny. Like, it's very corny, like kid MCU humor throughout a lot of it, which Brand New Day did not have. Brand New Day was hilarious, by the way. So I'm glad they got over that hump. No Way Home had a lot of corny humor too. But Brand New Day did not. It was actually funny. It pains me to say this a little bit. I do Mysterio looked cool and all, and Jake Gyllenhaal is one of the greatest actors working today. That performance didn't really do him a lot of favors. I don't think he was it's just weird because I felt like I expected more. It was already a kind of weird casting to me. I feel like of all roles, you got Jake Gyllenhaal, you're having him play Quentin Beck. It's a better paced film with a more interesting plot than either of these two down here, which is why it's here. But just let me go on the record and say, I would rather watch either of these two. I would be more entertained by either of these two. Yeah, good actor, bad writing. That's a fair, yeah. Jake Gyllenhaal is one of the greatest actors working today, but I feel like the movie just did him such a disservice. It's almost like a Christian Bale, not near as bad as a Thor: Love and Thunder situation, but it is similar in that regard. Like you got Jake Gyllenhaal and you really didn't do him any favors with the writing. So No Way Home, this has become a very polarizing movie, which is crazy because when it came out, everybody was really high on it. So you have two camps of people with No Way Home. People that think this is the greatest Spider-Man film ever made, and people that think it's not good and it's nostalgia, carried by nostalgia. Like all things, I think the correct answer is somewhere in the middle. This is definitely better than either of the two before it. It's not even close. I'm going to go top of A. I'm going to go top of A. I do think the theater experience, it's a very you had to be there moment. That theater experience is the best theater experience I've ever had. It was a better theater experience than Infinity War and Endgame, which is insane. It just shows how much motion Spidey has. Beneath all that, beneath the nostalgia, beneath the theater experience is still a very, very, very good Spider-Man film. It is the first of Tom's trilogy where it feels like John Watts, like he understood Spider-Man. There is a lot of corniness to it. I'll say that. Like, if you really watch it and think really hard, like I found, like when I was watching it yesterday, I watched it yesterday morning. I was kind of thinking to myself, like, this is kind of silly, like the way this is all coming together. But man, there's also some moments that are like, wow, this is some of the best. These are some of the best moments in Spider-Man movie history. Like the Goblin, that apartment scene. Willem Dafoe's performance as Green Goblin is better in this movie than it was in the original. I swear to God, I will die on that hill. The scene in the apartment where his Peter tingle, hate that by the way, stupid, not funny. But when his Peter tingle starts going off, and Willem Dafoe or Norman, he goes from Norman back to Goblin. That was one of the greatest scenes in the MCU, not just Spider-Man, in the MCU. And then that entire segment going into May's death, going into J. Jonah Jameson on the big screen with Pete crying in the rain and all that. That's Spider-Man, baby. That's what it's all about. Peak. I think the whole final act is peak. I do think the beginning pre-Goblin, pre-apartment scene is a little weak. Just kind of fine. Like all these villains from the multiverse are kind of just coming together. It was just kind of like, But I think the second, from that apartment scene on, it is just straight peak Spider-Man. I think Tobey and Andrew coming there and being the ones to kind of break the mold of Peter, everything he does being inspired by Tony Stark. They finally broke that mold, and he was instead kind of catapulted into his next arc of Spider-Man by Tobey and Andrew, which is very poetic in a lot of ways. I think it's a great movie. I do think it could be S tier, but I don't think it's as good as either of these two. Across the Spider-Verse, I'm going to put it at the bottom of A. I just don't think it's as good as Into the Spider-Verse. I do still like it and appreciate it. I don't even really have a whole lot to say about Across the Spider-Verse. I think it just, because I haven't seen we don't have the last one yet. So I feel like it's just a very open-ended movie, and it feels like a part one to what's supposed to be a two-part series is what it feels like to me. It feels like the ending's just such a cliffhanger, and you're kind of just, it just feels incomplete. So there's not a whole lot for me to say about it quite yet. I do like Miguel. I think his whole story and him as the antagonist, I guess, is very well done. Oscar Isaac puts out a great performance there. The Gwen stuff's really good. I especially love the art, like the art style in the Gwen moments when she's in her world with her dad and everything. That's all really, really good. I do like this movie. I just don't think it's as good as the first one. I do think I wasn't like all that crazy about Peter and the baby. That was kind of like a played out joke to me, him running around with the baby on his chest. Like, I just thought that was kind of dumb. But overall, yeah, I feel like Beyond has to come out and we have to see it before I can appreciate this one more. Whereas Into the Spider-Verse, it can act more as if this movie didn't exist, I feel like Into the Spider-Verse could still exist on its own. Whereas this one can't. And so you can't really fully appreciate it quite yet, though I do think it is really good and has a lot of neat cameos and callbacks and whatnot. I do like it. Pug with the 23 months. Can't say I agree with everything you said, but one thing I think everyone can agree on, we all love the three Spider-Man, Tobey, Andrew, and Tom. That is facts. That is something that Spider-Man fans, as big as the discourse gets with Spider-Man fans, I think something we all need to come together and agree on is we have never had a bad Spider-Man. We've had bad Spider-Man movies, but we've never had a bad Spider-Man. We have been blessed with, we've gone 3 for 3. Every single one of them, I would say all 3 of them have an argument for being the GOAT, and that's just how good they are. They all are great Peters and great Spideys. I love all 3 dearly. Last one, this is the moment of truth. I'm not going to go into excruciating detail on this because the movie comes out today. I don't want to spoil it. If I start talking about it, I will get carried away and start talking about things I shouldn't. I'm going to go bottom of S. I think it gives off huge Spider-Man 1 vibes in a sense that he feels real. You know, Spidey, he feels real, like this is a real guy that exists in the city of New York today. And it's the first time I've really felt that since probably TASM 2, as bad of a movie as it is. It did that very well as well, where it made this is a real guy that helps people, you know. If anything, it would be at the top of A. It's better than all 3 of these. 100%. I think it does, again, I'm going to put a review on the Talks channel and go into more details and give a spoiler warning before I get into anything spoiler. So I don't want to even really touch on it that much. All I'll say is I do have some things that it's MCU-ified a little bit, that kind of, it does make an effort to be a part of this big grander universe where I was kind of hoping for a more grounded, like this is a street level Spidey is Spidey and he is fighting a Spider-Man villain and that's it. So I would have appreciated that, but again, I can expand on that in an actual review. I'm not going to do that here because people haven't even seen it yet. That aside, my grievances, my slight little things I have with it aside, I think it is an S-tier Spidey film. It's the best Spidey film we've had. As far as live action goes, this is the best Spider-Man film we've had since Spider-Man 2, since 2004. This is the best live action best Spider-Man film in 22 years. When I coming out of the theater, I'm like, am I just high on it right now? But the more I think about it, it just does so much better than every single movie below it. It has a true understanding of Spider-Man. It is the most Spider-Man film that we've had since this, I think. I'm comfortable with that. If anything, it would bump down to here. But I don't feel comfortable with that. I just don't think it belongs. I think it's better than these three. I don't think it belongs there. I think S. These two are, I'll say this. These two are 2A and 2B. I'll say that. 2A, 2B. I do love Spider-Verse. I'm gonna put it here because I love Miles, but Peter's my guy I grew up with. So obviously I'm gonna gravitate towards him. But I do think that's tough, bro. They're close. Let's call that like 2A. We'll just call it 2A, 2B. They're equal to me right now. That could go either way. I love them both though. I do. It's just Peter, the guy you grew up with. Like my kid loves Miles. Like that's his I'm like, who's your favorite Spider-Man? He's like Miles. So like I feel like the younger generation, they're gonna appreciate Miles more because they've been exposed to him more, whereas he's kind of a newer thing. We didn't really have Miles growing up. Yeah, I'm gonna put it right there. I still don't think it's bad. I think Spider-Man 2 is the definitive Spider-Man film and the best Spider-Man film ever made. I think Brand New Day, because it has a responsibility to be a part of something bigger, that holds it back a little bit, whereas Raimi didn't have that responsibility. His responsibility was to just tell a Spider-Man film. And I think that's something that this movie really, I don't think that you can really do it. I feel like that might just be a part of it. That's the world we live in with the MCU and MCU movies. They're always going to have something that makes it a part of the bigger grand scheme of things. But no, it is fantastic. Go see it. I need more Frank and Peter, by the way. I need more of that in my life. Frank Castle, Peter duo is goated.